grandpa was a nasty man. He was an old man who liked dark pranks beyond mischief, and I hated such a grandfather. But that was a story from a few days ago. Grandpa died and I fell in love with him. It is thanks to the apartment building in Seoul that I inherited from my grandfather. Half of the apartment is in debt. It was a burden, but it was okay to take on all the debt. Safety diagnosis E. Designation of maintenance area. Establishment of reconstruction association soon. If I endure for a few years, I will have a new apartment in my name in the middle of Seoul. Today is the first day I go to my grandfather's apartment after the inheritance registration, no, to my apartment. The house was a mess. It was littered with rubbish, the wallpaper was rotten from mold, and the floor was sticky. I sighed and headed for the bedroom. I didn't have to go to the company for the time being by generously using my annual leave. I'm going to sleep for now, and I'll start cleaning tomorrow. I lay on my grandfather's bed. It was damp and smelled of mold. The soundproofing was not good, so I could clearly hear the thumping from upstairs and the sound from the TV next door. It was okay though. It's my apartment. I fell asleep. I woke up thirsty in the middle of the night. When I came out to the living room, the TV was on. Did I leave the TV on? A documentary about murder and body dumping was airing on TV. It was an oddly hideous and detailed screen. Dismembered arms and legs, skulls rolling around without limbs, dead blue eyes. I turned off the TV. I drank some water and went back to bed. The house upstairs was still thumping and the sound of the TV next door was loud. It was okay though. The next day I started cleaning. Taking out the trash was a priority. I bought several 100-liter recycle bags and stuffed all kinds of garbage into them. A rag with dark red marks, a torn shirt, and unidentifiable damp lumps. Then, the TV turned on by itself. It was the same program as last night. I heard words such as mutilation, serial killer, and unsolved case. I picked up the remote control placed on the sofa and pressed various buttons. At 9 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock at night, the TV was set to automatically turn on and play the documentary. I deleted the reservation settings and turned off the TV. After a few hours, the trash was roughly sorted out. The house was at least clear. It was time to wipe the dust off the floor. While washing the floor, some stubborn stains bothered me. Black and red stains. Those stains continued from the bedroom to the small room at the far end. Suddenly, memories from my childhood came to mind. The room was always locked. When I asked my grandfather what was in that little room, he showed me a terrible video with a grumpy expression. I remember not sleeping for days after that. It's like a nasty man. I slowly turned the doorknob of the small room. The door was not locked. Even though it was midday, the room was dark. The windows were covered with black duct tape. Unlike the messy living room, the room was empty except for some large electronic devices covered with a black cloth. I carefully removed the black cloth. It was a large commercial freezer like you would find at an ice cream discount store. The transparent sliding door was covered with black duct tape. I opened the sliding door and fell backwards with a dazed sound. What was inside were human arms and legs, and a corpse cut into pieces. Should I report it to the police? Could it be that after reporting it to the police, the reconstruction will be cancelled due to strange rumors? Maybe it won't be sold later because it's the house where the murder happened? Could the victim's bereaved family file a civil lawsuit and confiscate the grandfather's legacy? First I closed the freezer door. I needed to think soberly. Grandpa was a nasty man, but he wasn't capable of murder. He was an ordinary person who lived his entire life as a public servant and built a family. After my grandfather's only son, my father, committed suicide due to depression, it got a little weird, but it wasn't murder. I decided to continue cleaning first. I thought there might be a clue that could explain that freezer. It's night like that. I found the diary left by my grandfather. In the diary, 3 stories were written about the freezer. Long story, but to sum it up. First story. The contents of the freezer are the ones that bullied my father in school. My father suffered from chronic depression due to bullying during his school days, and eventually committed suicide. Grandpa avenged my father's enemy. Second story. The contents of the freezer are burglars who broke into the house. The grandfather accidentally killed the thief while resisting the thief, and was hiding the body in the freezer for fear of being punished without being legally recognized for self-defense. Third story. The contents of the freezer are well-made fakes. This is the last prank to tease the grandson who has inherited the inheritance. All 3 stories were terrible. Which story is true? Words such as the cancellation of reconstruction, the house where the murder occurred, and the civil lawsuit of the victim's family floated around in my head. I decided to believe the third story. I divided the bricks and the contents of the freezer into several large bags. They are somewhat light and white to be considered real corpses. It couldn't be real. It had to be. After driving for an hour, I dumped my bag in a deserted river in the lower reaches of the Han River. It was dawn when I returned home. I could hear the sound of the thumping from upstairs and the sound of the TV next door. What should I do now? Should I throw out the freezer? I can't move it alone. What if you call a contractor and notice something strange? No, there is no such thing as strange. Wouldn't it be discovered that I dumped the body, or rather the duffel bag, in the river? Suddenly I looked around the house. Small room with closed door, freezer in the room, grandfather's diary in the bedroom, thumping sound from upstairs, TV sound from next door, 3 rooms, 86 square meters, reconstruction. Even if I suffered from nightmares for the rest of my life, I thought I could live with this level of anxiety. Had to live.